Hey team, welcome back. In this video, we are going to begin looking at the if statement. We're going to start off with the most basic if statements available to programming. And at each level, you need to stop this video and practice to make sure you understand it before we go to the next tab. So in the first one, we have to get a word out of the way that I use. It's called an expression. And this expression can have 1, can have 2, 3 with ands, ors, nots, and whatever. These can be so complicated that it really does take a lot of experience to be able to solve it. But the most basic element is this expression evaluates to either true or false. It doesn't matter if there's 1 part, 2 parts, 10 parts, 100 parts in there. It has to evaluate to true or false. Now, I'm going to have to be honest with you. If I see anything over 6 or 7, I'm wondering, could I make that a little simpler? Because when you see 11 parts in your if statement, that takes some serious reading and understanding to see what you're doing there. So let's begin. So if some expression, this is called the true zone. So that means if whatever this is, expression, and that evaluates to true, it will execute this first begin end. And optionally, there is some more parts of this if statement, but we're not going to get to them yet. So I just want you to know that this if has some expression, and if this evaluates to true, it executes this first begin end. Let's do our first example. If 11 equals 11, does that equal true? Yes. So it's going to execute this area right here. Let's execute that. Notice it says 11. Now, if I come up here and I say, if 12 equals 11, well, that is false. So when I execute this, we're going to get no output. See this? No output. The reason why is because I'm only looking for the true zone. I've only programmed in this program for the true. Remember, the else is optional. The next equation is kind of like very mathematical looking. I'm saying, is 10 greater than 4? Now, we're going to look at that as true or false. Is 10 greater than 4? Yes, that is true. So the true will execute the true zone. Let's execute that. And 10 is greater than 4. Now, we're starting to get a little bit more complicated, but yet this has to still evaluate to either true or false. To execute this has to evaluate to true. So I have a function called getDate. And getDate returns me the date. Print getDate. Let's see what this returns. That returns 18 May 2021. Now notice I'm going to get the year of getDate. So if I say the year of getDate, let's see what that returns. That returns 2021. So the year of getDate equals 2021. Is that true or false? That's true. That's like me coming in here and saying 2021. If 2021 equals 2021, then it's true. But we just left this formula in there, and that formula evaluates to 2021, and let's see that execute. It is the year 2021. Okay, excellent. So this right here is what I call the most simplest forms of the if statement. What you have to do is stay on this page, practice these until you understand the expression and the truth zone. And then when you're ready, let's go to the second lesson. The second lesson, we are introducing the else statement. So here you can see we have the true zone, and now we have the false zone. So that means when we enter if 1 equals 1, that's true, that will execute this zone. Let's execute that. But if I wanted to execute the false zone, this else zone, then all I have to do is change the expression. So this is false. That came down here. And we can also do it on mathematical looking expressions. Is 10 greater than 14? Of course not. So it's going to do 10 is less than 14. And our last one, if 100 is greater than 14, yes, this is true. So this will enter the true zone. Once again, practice these, change the numbers, and make sure you understand this if and else. Excellent. Now we're introducing variables. In variables, you have to say declare the variable name, and it must start with the @ symbol and its data type. And then you say set that variable name equals some value. So here you can see that we've set a to equal 11. And then I have an if statement that says, hey, does a equal 1? No. Else if, does a equal 2? No, it equals 11. Else, execute this zone. So this is kind of like two if statements. And only one of these parts will only execute. You'll never have it execute here and here. So if the answer comes in here and this one executes, it skips the rest of this. So 11, false, false, this one. Let's see what happens. Now what's very important when you start declaring variables is we use them in our if clause. So if I come up here and if I don't declare these variables, it'll give me an error saying, hey, where's this @a symbol? And oh my God, like what is this? I don't know anything about that. So you have to go all the way up to your declares to do that. Now it's getting a little bit more complicated, but just like my previous screens, stay here, practice this until you become the master. So I'm saying declare b as an integer and make b equal 6. And then my first if is, hey b, are you in 1, 2, 3, 4? Oh, there you are. You're in there. So is this evaluate to true or false? That evaluated to true. So I'm going to execute the true zone. Notice that I've got an else if and an else, but I'm not going to execute them because remember, I only execute one of the zones in an if statement. So notice I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to execute it, and notice the first set. Now if I come up here and say 12, so is 12 in this first one? No. Else if, is that b? Is 12 in here? Yes, there it is. So it will enter this second one. Let's see that work. And notice the second condition. And then of course, let's make it come down here at the very bottom. So if I come down here and say 120, now is 120 in here? True or false? No. Is 120 in here? No. Else is kind of like a catch-all. So only the else department will execute. Last condition. I recommend you come here and practice this if and the in statement, and now you know else if. So this right here is the full structure of the if. If, else if, and else. You can have many of these sections, but you can only ever have one else statement in a big if statement. Practice this, and when you're ready, let's continue. I see a lot of times students are given to write a what is my grade? And we'll do this using TSQL. Notice I have declared a variable called grade and I assigned it 55. So I came in here and I said, hey, does grade greater than 90? No, grade's 55. No. Else if grade greater than 80? Nope. Grade greater than 70? Nope. Else, come here. Notice on this example, we're not using the begins and ends. And you can only do it like this if you have one line of code. So I can't come down here and say print BBB, right? Because notice now this next else is saying, hey, what's going on? What did, I got an error above me. If I wanted to do this one right here, I would have to come in and say begin and end. And then everything gets back to normal and the statements work correctly. And remember, I have to declare my variable. If I'd have left off my variable, you know you get that error. So include your thing and it comes down there and 55 gave us study more. Okay, excellent. Let's clear that and make sure that did work correctly. So I'm going to execute this whole thing. And it's just study more. Okay, excellent. Now, the order of your if statement is very, very important. Notice here, I gave my grade a 99, but I started from the bottom up. And remember, only one of these zones ever get executed. So as soon as this evaluates to true, this is what you get. So is 99 greater than 70? Yes. So it's going to print this C. It's going to bypass the rest of this. Even though 99 we know is an A, but see, this greater than 90, this is way down on the stack. As soon as I got inside this zone, I'm out of there. So once again, practice this page until you really understand the order, the begin, end, and the else if. You'll get it. Let's go to the next one. Now things are getting a little bit more complicated. We're introducing two expressions inside of one if statement. And now I have to introduce you to what's known as a truth table. So here I'm saying E1, expression 1, and E2, expression 2. They can only have 4 states. If they're both true, then the and is true. And this is important to know about the and statement. The and statement says both of your expressions must be true for the condition, the expression to be true. There's only one. Both of them must be true for it to be true. Okay, so let's look at the first one. V1 equals 10, V2 equals 20. If V1 equals 10, oh, that's true, and V2 equals 20, that's true. So true and true is true. So I'm going to do this true condition. Now, if I had came over here and said V2 equals 120, nothing would have printed. Nothing would have printed because I don't have the optional else. Now, if I had came down here and wrote else, and then execute that, then we get that because this one failed. So true and false is false. You're going to have to learn this truth table. There's no getting around this. So practice this and then we'll be able to proceed. Now the next condition is V1 equals 10. Yes. V2 equals 10. No, it equals 20. So true and false is false. So this is a false statement. And once again, only if both of them are true can an and expression be evaluated as true. Practice this, and when you're ready to continue, continue. And here you can see that I said, if V1 equals 20, oh, V1 equals 10, and V2 equals 20. So this is false and true. So false and true equals false. So I'm going to execute this false zone. Once again, you have to master this truth table. And this last condition is this condition number 4. If both expressions evaluate to false, the AND clause will always be false. So remember, AND says both conditions, both expressions must be true for it to be true. And for the other ones, it doesn't matter if one of them is true. Both of them have to be true. So let's execute this. So V1 is 10 and V2 is 20. So both of these are false. So false and false is false. And there you have the basics of the if statement and the AND clause. Practice makes the master. We'll see you back in the next video. Hey team, thanks a lot for sticking through that long video. I'm sure that you're well on your way to learning more about the if statement.